Welcome back to Morning Express live on ADBN television. Please remember you are part of the conversation this morning, and if you're not following us across social media, head over to our Facebook, Instagram or X pages at ADBN_TV and do so. You can also let us know your thoughts and conversations in reaction to some of the topics on discussed this morning by joining the live stream on our YouTube channel at ADBNTV_NG. However, remember to contribute constructively. Refrain from using inciting or inflammatory comments when you do so. Now, joining us in our studio, he's been on the program as a regular, but the first time in studio this morning is the business editor of the New National Star newspaper, Mr. Sam Otuoye. Mr. Sam, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Good morning. My pleasure.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you in the studio this morning.
Thank you so much.
Now, without further ado, we'll go into the conversations greeting our lineup this morning. Yesterday, some of the images would also greet our screens. We saw quite a historic engagement. It's not the first time that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had intervened. Many called it a political solution, but again, the president invited the suspended governor of Rivers State, suspended House of Rep members led by the Speaker, Martin Amehule, and the FCT minister to the State House, where they were all seen exchanging warm handshakes and smiling. Is this a fresh peace pact? What is to make of this non-viral video?
Yeah, thank you so much. You see, it was expected because, the governor is an elected executive, and the suspension was for a while. And
in a short period of 6 months.
6 months. To give peace a chance. And I think all the while, I think there have been some moves to reconcile the situation, which I think part of it is what you saw. It has gone viral now. It's still the peace process. And I think with the way things are going, peace will actually come. And there will be reprieve in that state. The governor will be called back because, the man behind the whole situation, the Wike.
Why do you call him the man behind the whole situation, Mr. Sam?
Yes, because, he was the former governor. He handed over to this guy. And from everything we've read and heard, he wanted some portion of the land, even after he had left. And somewhere along the line, the Fubra said no. You are taking too much. Why not we do it the other way? I think that was where the conflict started from. And that is what has stemmed to what we are seeing today. So with the reconciliation, the other time the Fubra met the president
in Lagos.
And,
I recall that.
Good. So all those things are moves to achieve peace. And I think that peace is coming. So what you saw that went viral is part of the process. And I think at the end of the day, there will be peace. There's nothing anybody can do about it. Fubra is an elected person, and he can be thrown away because of a rift with someone else. No, the only thing is that, when you talk about suspension, it's just for peace to reign, so that the crisis that was getting out of hands, right, will be contained. That's actually what happened. And now that the thing is getting to this point, I think September, right? 6 months suspension will elapse in September. I think he'll be called back.
Now, whilst this is ongoing, River State is under the administration of a sole administrator in retired Vice Admiral Ibokete Ibas.
Yeah.
He went to the National Assembly, got an approval for the 2025 Rivers budget, which was much debated upon, the 1.48 trillion naira. It was also met with some skepticism ahead of appointments and confirmation by the Senate committee on those who would be saddled with the responsibility of conducting Rivers local government elections. Did you have any concerns with the Senate's approval of a non-indigene in Dr. Mike Ode from Cross River? It seemed to have made a lot of noise over the week.
You see, that has been very controversial because so many people are of the view that why not use an indigene, which is right by my own assessment, right? But given that what is going on there now is not a normal governance, as it were, having a sole administrator in a state, any other thing can happen. It's assumed that what is happening there in Rivers State is a bit off the track. So having this other guy coming in from Cross River is still in that same line of leadership that is operating in that state right now. So give and take, whether he's a citizen or an indigene or not, I think what has happened is let there be a free and fair election. That is what is important.
Now, some of the senators deliberating on this matter in the Red Chamber said that we need to be careful as a people in setting the wrong precedents, that going forward, this might give room for other states to adopt such practices of having a resident electoral commissioner who is not from the state being imported from elsewhere.
No, you see, it's because of the situation in Port Harcourt, in River State. You are having somebody that is not from River State heading the place, leading the state. So what do you expect? He is in charge. He has the right to pick whosoever he wants. Imagine if he were to be an indigene of River State, being the governor, sitting there. He wouldn't do so. He won't go outside of the state to pick somebody to be the electoral umpire, right? So it's because of the situation. The situation in River State now is peculiar. That is the truth about the matter. So whatever that happens there might also be peculiar, including what has happened, getting this guy from Cross River to head, the election. So it is not out of place, given the situation on ground.
In your opinion, you feel this is a way to buttress political neutrality by getting an outsider?
Political neutrality, if you call it that way, that's the way it sounds, because the man at the helm of affairs is not from there, and he came in through possibly what you can call the back door, given that he was not elected to lead the River State. So what has happened by getting another person from another state to lead this is the same process of getting somebody from somewhere to lead in River State, having an abnormal situation. What I'm saying in essence is that the situation in River State is abnormal, given that the man there came on the behest of the suspension of Fubra, right? So he is in charge, and he has the power to choose whosoever he wants to do the electoral process for him, for the state. That is what has happened. And possibly he's from South also, he's from,
from
Cross River. Why not? He has taken somebody from his place, given that he has that power. If that power were not to be there, he wouldn't have done so. And again, he's not from the state. He wants somebody that will do his bidding, right? Local government elections these days are manipulated. You bring what happened in Benue State a few weeks ago. APC won everywhere. So you don't bring somebody that will subvert your intentions, because what's going on in the country now is get somebody that will work for you and do your bidding. That is what is going on. So if he feels, look, I don't trust anybody from River State to do this for me, he has gone to where he felt he could get somebody that will do it for him. So he is not out of place because of the situation in River State. I'm not saying that the history should continue. No. If a Rivers man had been there or had replaced stood in for Fubra within this period, he wouldn't have done so. So it's a case of the abnormality continuing, as it were. But when this whole thing is over, everything will go back to what it should be. I think that is what
whilst there's still a state of emergency as declared by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Rivers State, the president has had strategic meetings, first with the Rivers State governor whilst he was in Lagos to observe the Salah Eid. Now, back off his return to Abuja, a broad meeting and engagement beyond just the governor who represents the executive arm of government in the state. We saw members of the Rivers State's State House of Assembly led by their speaker, Honorable Martins Amwahule, also amongst those who met the president yesterday, in the company of the former governor and now FCT Minister Barrister Nyesom Wike. Let's take a listen to hear some of the other sides of the story off the back of that meeting. Take a listen.
I want to give God the glory that today is the 26th of June 2025, that peace has finally returned to the state. All agreed to work together with the governor, and the governor also agreed to work together with all of us who are members of the same political family. Yes, just like humans, you will have disagreements, and then you also have a time to also settle your disagreement, and that has been finally concluded today, and we have come to report to Mr. President that is what we have agreed. So for me, everything is over, and enjoy all everybody who believe to work with us to also work together with everybody. That there's no more acrimony, there's nothing to say we're disagreeing. We have all agreed on everything. So we thank God. For me, it's a day we have to thank Almighty God.
For me, it's very important that this day has come to be. What we need for the progress of Rivers State is peace. And by the special grace of God this night, with the help of Mr. President and the agreement of the leaders of the states, including our leader, peace has returned in Rivers State. We'll do everything within our power to make sure that we sustain it this time around. Thank you.
Now, important things to take away, and let's start with the former governor, now Minister of the FCT, Barrister Nyesom Wike. He said, we are all members of the same political family. I'd like us to deduce what we can from that, because some of the infightings that started, particularly from the state legislature, was the attempted defection, since the court has given its ruling saying that defection was not valid. People are hinting that there might be a decamping. The governor might decamp as well. Where does that put the minister's comments on we're all members of the same political party?
It's quite interesting, and nobody would be surprised to see defections, because defections are what is going on right now. You saw the our lead story in the National Star
in Enugu.
In Enugu. That's what's going on now. The country is turning into a one-party state. So if you see defection rolling in a River State, there's nothing to bother about.
Do you think it's part of the agreements that brought about this peace?
It's most likely, because you know, Barrister Wike himself has been a member of two parties, as it were. One is registered member, the other one is unregistered member, and he has given his loyalty to APC, as it were, even though he's in PDP, right? So there's no way anybody will not read the handwriting on the wall to say, look, FOBRA is likely going to defect to APC for this peace to be sustained, because he can be in another party and work against APC and have peace. So for him to have peace and for peace to be sustained, he must join the train, and the train that's moving now is APC. So there's no surprise about it that there's going to be some form of defection. You know, prior to this 2027, a whole lot of things have started happening in terms of defections, right? So I don't see River State being an exception, as it were. So this agreement has so many undertones, and with time they will start unfolding, because Fubra himself, I think he's tired of the whole trouble. You know, when you are fighting with somebody that is bigger than you, Wike with the federal might behind him, Fubra can't do much. He cannot.
Now let's talk about him, because in responding, he said, in reference to yesterday, was a day he had long waited for, and he's thankful to all the leaders in the state. Now, with the antecedents set by the former governor, where during the 2023 general elections, despite being a PDP member, he vehemently worked for the success and victory of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the elections in Rivers State. Now, in reference to all the state's leaders, you've hinted there's a possible deflection. Do you think that come 2027, the position of the PDP in Rivers State will be to work for an APC victory?
I don't even see PDP as a party that will be in that state till then, because immediately the governor defects, every other person, every other union, every other group will follow suit. So from what we are seeing here, this peace truce, at the end of the day, before 2027, you will see defection And when deflation comes, PDP, as a matter of fact, what is PDP as a tool right now? Where is PDP? Yesterday, you saw them talking about Samuel Anyanwu, the secretary, coming back, and BOT is saying no, he shouldn't resume, and all of those. There's so much crisis. And the National Public Secretary was talking about why they are bringing Samuel Anyanwu back because of the.
And now that you've brought it up, we're supposed to discuss that much later in the show, but let's talk about it. It is item number 8 on our rundown.
Okay.
You've referenced the PDP in a situation where there's been much infighting, despite a former Senate President in Dr. Bukola Saraki saddled with the reconciliatory responsibility in the party. Now, they've talked about a supposed Governor Seyi Makinde's bloc, who is at loggerheads with the acting chairman, Umar Damagum, who reinstated Senator Samuel Anyanwu as confirmed by the Supreme Court and requested by INEC, but it all broke down into this back and forth on 11 NWC members saying that they would not stand even with the acting chairman of the party. You have projected that PDP might not be a party come 2027, but in the interim, we're 3 days to go on the proposed June 30th NEC meeting. Where do you see the PDP standing with that? Because one of the words I hear is that they're insistent on holding that meeting despite INEC's kickback.
You see, PDP has been immersed in so much troubles, so much conflict. But the truth about the matter is, the balkanization, the fragmentation of PDP is not going to stop, because the drums are being beaten by the most powerful. And those most powerful people are backed by the federal might. So it will be difficult for PDP to pull out of this trouble, because what awaits them is what I would call a tsunami of a sort, where before 2027, PDP will never exist, because that is where the whole drama is going to. And what do we make of it? Atiku, that is the henchman in PDP, is also looking at how to form
a coalition
party. What does that leave PDP? Where does it leave PDP? PDP is already getting into the ground. That is the truth. What they are doing now is that Samuel Anyanwu is the secretary. After all, the Samuel Anyanwu we are talking about, you know his antecedents. He's a weakest person, right? That one is true. So if Wike is behind Samuel Anyanwu, and Samuel Anyanwu is the PDP national secretary, what do you think? Yet, Wike is playing on both sides. The truth about the matter is, PDP is in for the final doom, and it will happen before 2027.
Well, interesting times. There's also a sentiment shared by the former state governor, His Excellency Gabriel Suswam, who says PDP is in an ICU, the intensive care unit, in which before the next election circle, should they fail to convey the NEC meeting as envisioned by the Board of Trustees for the 30th of June, it would also affect their planned convention going forward. Now, whilst the position of National Secretary remains the bane for this infightings, it is on the Supreme Court's verdict that the recognized national scribe is Senator Sam Anyanwu. Now, whilst this is the major debate as the PDP looks to put its house in order, let's bring it back to some of the executive activities of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Yesterday also, the president assented to 4 tax bills. We'll be looking at the impact of these bills, as some of the editors this morning are calling it a time for cautious optimism as Nigeria's new tax regime takes off on the 1st of January 2026. In the meantime, I listened to Mr. Zach Adedeji. He says this gives him 6 times for enlightenment and to get the house in order. One of the upsides to this, let's start with incomes. Some of the families that are low income earners now have a tax exemption. What, apart from this, are some of the strong points of this new tax regime, in your opinion?
It's a very welcome development. The truth about the matter is, I've said it several, even on this program, that having policies is not the end of the game. Implementation is where it lies. Perfect policies, ease of doing business, the legal framework, the tax tribunal, and the ombudsman, and all of those. Very wonderful. You now can go and lodge a complaint that, look, I paid tax here, and they said this and they said that, and people will look into it. You now go to tribunal and say, look, see what they've done to me. I did this, I did that. All those things are in order, right? And even the exemptions are very wonderful. That is what happens all over the world, where the rich support the poor. The rich support the poor all over the world. And that is where we are coming to now. So it's a good one, because poor people have suffered in this country, where they are poor and are still being taxed upon the poverty, right? So give and take, if it is properly implemented, that would be a wonderful thing. Because why they are talking about cautious optimism is because of the implementation, because of where we are coming from. You know, we've had so many good policies in this country that ended up being, implemented in a very bad manner. So right now, if they go ahead to implement what they've stated, we are high and dry. We'll go home and sleep, and everybody will help you for it. But the way they're going, okay, they've given 6 months. 6 months for awareness, 6 months for putting their house in order, 6 months to look at the implementation milestones, right? So they must do all those and come out clean. Because what Nigerians wouldn't want to see is a situation where by what they've promised is not what they're doing, because they're calling it cautious optimism, because they've seen all those happen before now. So
now in terms of tax exemptions, now to encourage corporate entities to pay tax, at a glance, the bill also proposes a reduction in corporate taxes for big businesses. Now the National Assembly was able to midwife this, bringing it down from 30% to 27% for the year 2025, and then subsequently it would come down to 25% going forward. How important in this in encouraging entities, corporate entities, pay their taxes?
It's good. It's already seen that it's good, because it's going to be a graduation. You start from high, you start coming down. Given that, you see, the good thing about that provision there is like testing the waters. As they're doing 27 and they see what 27 looks like, and they come down to 25 and they see what 25 looks like, it can still go down. So I think is a thing of modulation. Seeing the outcomes, they will know whether to go down further or whether to, leave it where it is. So what I think is that it will encourage investment, it will encourage entrepreneurship, it will encourage the people in the manufacturing sector, because when you talk about tax, you're talking about cutting down their revenue, cutting down their income. But when you begin to graduate it, and they see that, look, this thing is working, they'll be happy to pay.
But there's going to also be a shake-up. Some of the federal agencies, the likes of the Nigerian Customs Service, NUPRC, and other agencies who have a tax collection component, may have to relegate that responsibility to the soon-to-be renamed FIRS that will now be known as the Nigerian Revenue Service. Do you see this also being met by some bureaucratic bottlenecks in its implementation?
Yes, those are part of the cautious optimism, people are raising, because, we've had situations in this country where the Oransanya report and all of that, and white paper and all of that, they say, wonderful, 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 we're going to implement, and they never implement it. You see, you saw the situation that happened in this country when they say, look, we're going to scrap UTME, and we're going to do the normal jump we used to do before. And people block those things because they are benefiting from it. So now that they want to harmonize the tax system to make sure that all this multiplicity of taxes will not happen again, which is a good idea. But just as you said, NUPRC, all those other agencies that are collecting these taxes, are they going to block the harmonization because of their interest? Yes, yes, and yes. But it depends on the leadership. It depends on the government, President Tinubu, to maintain his grants and say, look, This is what we said, and we must do it. Look at what happened in the recent local government autonomy. And President Tinubu
Despite
has
the
said,
Supreme Court ruling,
despite the
implementation is still lacking.
That is what we're talking about. That is the conscious optimism. So the truth about the matter is, we've come to a long way in this country where people that are benefiting from some form of abnormalities, as it were, they don't like to let go. So if they want this to happen and work, they must insist that the implementation must be 100%. But if they default, if they slack, these guys will not allow those things to function. The implementation, they will truncate it and make it miserable for those that are implementing them. That is the truth about the matter. So all in all we need is implementation 100%, and we run and we go to sleep. But from what we've seen over the years, who is sure whether it will happen or not? So we still hope it
Mr.
will
Sam
happen.
has also lent his voice towards the cautious optimism, as he has said that implementation over time in Nigeria's history has remained a bane of concern. Whilst the president is adamant that the new tax law would spell prosperity for Nigeria. There would be the renaming of the FIRS to the Nigerian Revenue Service. The harmonization also does see VAT excluded from issues like rent, food purchases, and also baby products. There are income exemptions for earners who also earn below 250,000 naira. Now, in the implementation of this, it has also been backed by some optimism on increased transparency in the use of taxpayers' money. This would be some of the conversations in terms of evaluation when we look at the implementation come the 1st of January 2026. But in the meantime, 2026 is just a year away from 2027. The electoral umpire INEC is moving to conduct by-elections in 12 states. The likes of Rivers have been affected because of a declaration of state of emergency. Amidst this is also the commencement of continuous voters registration, CVR, in the month of August. Well, I'll come back to you now, Mr. Sam. This continuous voters registration is one of the issues where conversations on voter apathy have been a huge concern. Now, when we look at the statistics in the 2023 general elections, a total of 96.5 million plus voters registered, obtained their permanent voters card. But in the numbers that were used to collate the outcome of the presidential election, it was barely 1/3 of those figures we saw. Now, ahead of this continuous voters registration, what are some of your genuine concerns towards the process?
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, after the 2023 elections, a whole lot of things have changed. Confidence has been eroded because of the outcome. Even the 2027 election we are talking about, there will be so much apathy, both in registration and in voting. And we're going to see it in this off-cycle by-elections, because people are so tired of doing one thing, repeating the same mistake year in, year out. We've not been able to have a transparent election in this country, particularly the one that happened in 2023 that everybody was happy about. Every old man and old woman went out to register, went out to vote, but at the end of the day, they didn't get what they wanted, what they voted for, as it were. So it's going to affect the by-elections. There will be voter apathy. The continuous registration, I wonder how many people that will go there to say, okay, let me register. If the person registers, is he going to vote? That is the question.
That's another concern, because beyond registering, we saw videos went viral, the number of uncollected PVCs. Registration, most people just do it to obtain a means of identification, especially for those who do not have what I call it now, ID cards at a place of work or something. People look at driver's license, voter's card, NIN as some of the modes of identification. So primarily, some persons only do it to have the temporary slip. They don't go back to collect the permanent voter's card. How can INEC address this? Should we explore issues like in the banks where people have the cards picked up almost instantaneously when you register?
That is technology you're talking about now. We must find a way to deliver cards, voters' cards. You see, the other time they were moving around, they did a little because I think I was involved where they were going from location to location, asking people to come and collect their voters' card. But I don't think that is enough because the outcome wasn't very impressive because so many cards were still lying fallow there with them. So they need to up their game by way of deploying technology, sending text messages, you know, asking people, where can I meet you and give you your card? Because if you don't have your card, you cannot vote. That is the point. As long as those cards remain with them, what it means that those people are already disenfranchised because they cannot vote. And how would they help to make this work? They must go the extra mile. They must deploy technology. They must go into awareness creation to the point where they will use the traditional media, as it were.
More like a heightened voter education.
Good, more like a heightened voter education. Go into the nooks and crannies and let people know that, look, your cards are here. Can you come and collect it? They can even do something like some carrot approach. If you collect your card, you get
some
this.
incentives.
It's some incentives, right? So those will make people go and collect because they know that if they get there, they will get whether a ball pen, whether a plate of food. You know, people are hungry these days. Immediately you call people to come and eat food, you see people everywhere. So they must think out of the box and find out which measure will work better for them. So
the other challenge to this is also the voters registrar. There were conversations around the need to update voter registers, the inclusion of some demised persons in the existing voter register, and even in the placement of the voting centers. There's always a mismatch. The wards where people are supposed to vote, you get there, your name is not there. How can they also fix this?
They should know what to do. See, we didn't start elections in Nigeria today. The truth about the matter is there's so much incompetence and so much I don't care attitude by the staff of INEC. You see, the last election, unfortunately, I didn't vote because when I went to vote, I stood there for a whole long time, and at the end of the day, they say my boot is not here.
Lateness in arrival of electoral material?
Not even that. They said my boot, that was not my boot. Yet I showed them everything. They said, oh no, it is this other side and this other. I say, I can't go to that place right now.
Because there's always restriction in movement.
Restriction in movement, and you know, you won't drive and all of those. So I had to go home. So what I'm saying is that most times is the fault of INEC staff. INEC has to do these things properly. Where you send people to a particular area, you must be sure that their names are there, because sometimes people will get there and their names are not there. I mean, these are some of the loopholes INEC is having. That one is not. That one is an administrative error, as it were. You know, so they need to fix those things. I don't think there's nothing that they cannot do if they want to do it and do it right. We've started elections a long time ago in this country, so we shouldn't be having all those teething issues. Those are some of the issues that should have come up, you know, so many years ago when we started having elections. But if they're happening today, you know that is a loophole on the side of INEC. They should do the right thing.
Now let's tie this to item number 10 on our rundown, because one of the issues that constitutes voter apathy is when people come out to vote for a candidate under a certain political party, only for those candidates to defect. You had raised the question in Enugu. In the 2023 general elections in Enugu, the Labour Party had quite what I would call or describe a landslide victory. Now, out of the 3 senatorial seats, they won 2 of those seats. Out of the 7 House of Representatives seats, beg your pardon, 8, they won 7. And in the state legislature, out of 24 seats, they won 14. Now, this morning, we're discussing the fact that of all the seats they won in the State House of Assembly, they are at the verge of losing those seats because of defections. What does this do in balancing voter apathy and also party politics with the defections of key political actors?
Yes, it's not a voter party thing. No,
people feel, in a way cheated, saying, oh, it's the popularity of the party we voted for. Labour Party was popular in 2023. And now how comes these candidates who were Labour Party people at that time purporting the ideology that they are different are now back into either the PDP, SDP,
oh yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's actually going to affect the situation right now. You see, the defection is that has happened is a very fundamental plan by how will I put it now, critical politicians. Critical in the sense that you see, before you achieve what has happened today in Nigeria in terms of defection, you must be a critical political thinker, because the whole thing they brought to bear that has led to all these defections is not something you do overnight. It's a calculated, intentional game, played and played very well. I give it
Mr. Sam, where does this game start from? Because if you read some of the notices of defections, these defectors cite what I'll call incurable crisis in their party.
That's why I said fundamental. That's why I said critical.
You think it starts from sponsoring such infightings?
That is what has happened. That is what has happened. Some people that have mastered politics, they know how to play the game, and that is the game that we are on now. And that game will not end until the next election, and after the next election, it will continue. You know, when PDP came in and said they were going to rule for, I think, how many years? For 60 years. People went back to the drawing board and said, look, we must subvert this situation.
Dominance.
Otherwise, there'll be trouble in this country. So that is why, if you look at what's going on now, some people are doing coalitions here and there. They want to subvert what is currently happening.
Now, some of these coalitions are yet to scale the hurdles of party registrations with INEC. Now, should they scale it, do you think that they'll be able to curb this one-party state tendency that the spate of defections is tending towards?
That is actually what they're trying to do. That's actually where they're heading.
Do you think that the persons that they are purporting as key coalitor actors across the regions have the might to topple the federal might?
Yes and no. I would say yes and no, because you see, some of those actors, their followership has gone down because of the way they led when they were there. You can't put something on nothing, right? Some of them were there and they didn't do well, and now they're crying foul. They're crying, oh, blame mother. No, we won't take this, we won't take that. This regime is corrupt and all of those. Meanwhile, when they were there, they were corrupt. How will somebody believe them? That is the problem they're going to have. They're going to have that problem of confidence building, acceptance, public acceptance, because some of them didn't do well. Take, for instance, P2B, that everybody has been, he's a good man, he will do well, and all of those. Yes, people will follow him. But there are some people that are coming with him that don't have that integrity. And that will affect, I pity P2B.
In terms of the choice of his running mates?
Yeah, choice of his running mates and the coalition. You know, the other day I read that one politician, one former AGF is lining up with him.
As his running mate?
I wonder who that will be or not.
Because for him,
yes,
he seems to believe that he has grown beyond being the former VP Alhaji Atiku Abubakar's running mate. And this is in the permutation that the North would continue to play quite a role in the numbers that you need to win an election. And for that instance, he needs a running mate who is from the North.
Definitely. Definitely he has to. He doesn't have any choice. So he must go there if he wants to make an inroad into the North. That one is given. He did it in 2023 now, so he's going to do it again. But my worry for him is getting somebody that is generally accepted. You know, his former...
Or like you say, has a track record of performance.
Track record of performance. Because I've read about Malami, I've read about how those guys, how did they fare when they were there? What is the acceptability? What is the confidence? You know, so I pity him, because right now I think he's in a quagmire, having somebody that will have that I don't know why he's even dropping his former running mate. That guy is good, and he has some good integrity, as it were. His integrity, I think, is still intact, you know. But for whatever, yes, Adambaba. I think he's looking at, you know, this time around is a different ball game, because the power that is there right now has made so much route, as it were, in terms of 2027. So he needs somebody that is strong to be able to push it forward.
So probably like Rabi Kwankwaso?
God. But Kwankwaso
agreed to be running mate.
That is by
But do you think that at this point, with the challenge in finding a viable VP, should Mr. Peter Obi consider what he did in the previous election, where he was VP Atiku's running mate?
That will not happen. That will not happen. And I think he knows that he won't even try it. Instead of...
Now this also rubs off on the Labour Party, because many Nigerians, I might be wrong, accepted Labour Party because of the Peter Obi influence.
Yeah.
Now, as it stands, that the Labour Party, particularly with Barrister Julius Abure, not really aligning with the Mr. Peter Obi movement, do you think that this shakes Labour Party stakes, not just in Enugu, but across Nigeria going into 2027?
It's going to affect Labour Party. As a matter of fact, Labour Party has, in fact, in rating, you can give it, compared to what it was in 2023, I think, if you ask me, Labour Party has gone down to as low as 60%. Because of P2B, you can give it up to 60%. But what is going on right now in that party, with the fragmentation and the conflict that is engulfing the party, I don't think it will have the same, that sway, that confidence, that leading that it had during
widespread acceptance.
No, it will not, because, you know, wherever, any house that is in disarray will never have the same prominence and the same popularity it used to have. That house now is in disarray. Abure, for whatever reason, people said it's the same thing that's happening in PDP, you know, where some people are stoking fire, you know, behind the scene, and the thing is just burning everywhere, right? So that fire is burning in Labour Party, is burning in PDP, is burning in SDP. The other day I read about SDP having issues again, you know, getting their ass together. So, and the point out there is that some people are behind the scene sponsoring all these controversies and conflicts. Where will you leave LP? Labour Party is not going to have the same confidence people had in it, the same prominence, and the same sway it held in 2023. That is the truth about the matter. Everything is getting fragmented, and is not going to be that business as it was. That is what's going to be. So for P2B, I have some pity for him. I say it again, because he's a man. You know, when you're a good man and people are like sympathizing with you, sympathy does not solve the problem. That is beyond that.
Quite interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Sympathy doesn't solve
No, it doesn't.
Now, permutations by Mr. Sam Otuoye ahead of 2027. While these permutations would also keep check with them as we urge towards the election circle, there are by-elections to be conducted in August, so we'll test the waters then. But in the interim, in terms of campaign promises, one of those campaign promises that has been used by key political actors over the years and has not been fulfilled upon is the promise of stable power supply. Now, this morning, there are two angles to the conversation. In 2023, 2024, there was a characterization known as Band A, with the promise that as much as power might not be 100% stable, you are guaranteed at least 20 hours of electricity daily. Now, has that promise really been kept with? There's been a debate on NEC and the DISCO's role in this. But Band A customers and industries who rely on that have recently bemoaned shortfalls in supply. They have also constantly been said to have been shortchanged with the new electricity tariff not reflecting this improved upon power supply. I know in 2027, some key political actors would promise to magically make this problem go away. But let's talk about this shortchange being experienced by Band A customers. What do you make of it?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I'm one of the consumers that have been shortchanged because I'm in Band A, where I live. And all that they're crying about and screaming about, nobody has attended to us in terms of, oh, sorry, we are sorry, we didn't live up to. In fact, one day I had to call because I have a house in Enugu. So I had to call the EEDC people, the disco people there, and say, look, what is going on? This power that you promised us and not giving us, how do you compensate us for it? The guy said yes, that what happens is that NEC has a threshold. If you don't get up to that threshold, whether he said what percentage, that they will pull you out of that Band A and transit the area to Band B, but that they are meeting the threshold and all of those. So the truth about the matter is, NEC is supposed to be the regulator, and it's NEC that is supposed to do the evaluation to know whether these people are doing what they've promised. And it's NEC also that is supposed to penalize any disco that is not, living up to the bidding, the agreement. So what is NEC doing? Is it the people that are supposed to come to NEC and say, look, see what is happening to us? You see, the problem we have in this country is this implementation thing. You will do a policy, and even when you see the policy falters, you don't go back to say, look, I will penalize you because this is not what we agreed. So it now seems like it's a game between the discos and the NEC, the regulator and the operator. That is what we see in all of this, right? So I think it's high time NEC started doing what it's supposed to do. NEC is failing the consumers. The FCC, what do you call it, Federal Consumer Protection, whatever, they should also step in, because this is also within their yeah. So what are they doing about it? People will raise alarm. Oh, wonderful. The new tax reform is talking about an ombudsman, a tribunal, and all of those. If those things work, because they're like regulators in this sense, you make a complaint and they take it up and find a solution to it and all of those. That is what it should be. Not when somebody complains and nothing happens. That is why you see all these label everywhere talking about they're not meeting up, they are not compensating them and all of those. But something has happened recently that is very commendable. I have to say that. You see, Abuja Disco, what do they call it now?
ADC.
ADC. Yes, they are giving some bonuses to people that paid for their meters. I don't know where you live, but we are experiencing that in Duse, where I live. You now recharge 1,000. You recharge, they give you, I think, 50% or so, in addition, because you bought your meter with your money. So those are some of the things Nigerians will want to see. Those are some of the, when you talk about reforms, those are some of the things they want to see. They want to see practical reforms, not paper reforms, not theoretical reforms. So we just look forward to seeing NEC to implement what agreement discos have had with the consumers. That is what we want to see. But for the short change, that is real, and that is what is happening right now.
Now globally, the World Bank also issued a ranking, and it scored Nigeria quite low on the stability of its electricity supply. It also went on to say that over 86.8 million Nigerians lack access to power. In the interim, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assented to the Electricity Act of 2023. States are supposed to take up the responsibility of generating and distributing as well. But the challenge with this is we're also expecting additional support through the rural electrification system, where the African Development Bank is supposed to support Nigeria. Why is it that despite these initiatives, we're still ranked
recording in progress
low globally?
Yeah, it's because of implementation. We talk about this implementation thing. The bill, the power bill that the president assented to the other time, that was 2 years ago or so, that states can now generate and distribute and all. How many states are generating? How many states are generating? How many states are distributing? That is the question. You know, this subnational government in Nigeria is not helping matters. Out of, I think, Abia State, Enugu State, how many states have even done that? You know, so it is not until the subnational governments take up these things as challenges, take up these development ideas and implement them. That is when you see a change. Look at, I don't know the village you're coming from. I come from a village where we've done everything as a community to have light. Here, there's still no light. We've paid everything. We've done everything. They've done the what do you call it now? The resuscitation of the outdated facilities and equipment. Here, there's still no light. The question is why? The question is why? Subnational governments have not taken it up upon themselves to say, look, we're going to run with this. Get investors to invest because it's lucrative if you have, you know, I think one of the setbacks they have is how to collect, what do you call it now? How to collect from the communities. When you give them, like, you know, communities are not numbered. They live in a communal, they're not metered as well. And when you go there, you see poor people, you see poverty. And when you're asking somebody to pay you, it will look like you want to crucify the person. So I think what should happen is metering should be deployed. Because if you don't use, you don't pay. If you use, you pay. Most houses in the villages, the owners are not there. Most of them are empty. You only see them during festivities. So how much are you going to generate from them, from the villages? I think that is what is even making the subnationals for investors not to come and take up all those places. Because I can tell you for a fact, in my own community, how many businesses are there? That is the way it is scattered all over the country. So what will help us really is to ensure that the discos run those things the way they should effectively. You see, if they don't do the right mapping, they don't do the right connections and resuscitating those equipment that are obsolete, so that these people will have constant light. It's not when you give them light once in a month, you come and say, oh, pay us. They will resist you. When they have light, they will know that they have light and they will need to pay. There are some small and medium enterprises in those areas, you know, the welders that need light and all of those hotels that are there, they need light. But when you don't give them, at the end of the month you say, pay me, nobody will pay you. They should do the, and you see, World Bank you're talking about, and the African Development Bank loan and all of those. Yes, those things will work when they see that the people that you're working for are ready to accept what you're doing. See what is going on right now in terms of solar. Solar is making waves everywhere because when the time comes, the light will come on and everybody's happy. When it's evening, the light will come on. But this one is you pay, you don't see the light. How do you feel? How do you feel? So the apathy there is because of the way the distributing firms are distributing it. You don't give light and don't collect money. You give light and you collect money. That is what it is. You give, you collect. You don't give, you don't collect.
All right. Well, Mr. Otuoye, time, I'm afraid, is not our friend when we have such informative and objective discussions like this, but we must thank you for taking our time to grace the program this morning.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, moving on to our second conversation this morning, as we'll be joining the State Council from Nasarawa State Ministry of Justice, Mr. Raymond Anzaku Umaru, who'd be speaking to us as it concerns a conviction issued to 32-year-old gospel singer Tinileyin Ajayi, who has been convicted of the murder of Salami Adidu. Now, he will tell us about this homicide, and what we now hear is going to be a death by hanging for the convicted murder suspects. We'll take a break, and when we return, this is our next line of conversation. Stay with us.